Welcome to Faith and Sustainability, a podcast where we look deeper into how our faith traditions inspire us to care for our common home. I'm your host, Leonard Robinson.
And I'm Kat Doyle, your co-host. This is a special episode of the Faith and Sustainability podcast. Today, as we mourn his passing, we celebrate the life and legacy of Pope Francis. His teachings, particularly his encyclical Laudato Si and his letter of exhortation Laudate Deum, have profoundly shaped the Archdiocese of Atlanta and our mission towards sustainability.
You know, Pope Francis has been a beacon of hope and action, inspiring not just individuals, but entire communities to embrace environmental stewardship as a matter of faith. His message was for Catholics and non-Catholics. Here in Atlanta, his vision has transformed us into a national faith-based leader in sustainability.
So in this episode, we're going to take you on a journey through the many different initiatives that have come from his inspiration, each a testament to his enduring legacy. We'll reflect on the pilot programs, the action plan, workshops, audits, and all the more that we've done here, and the real impact that Pope Francis has had on us here in Atlanta. So, Leonard, let's get started.
Let's do this chronologically, Kat.
Okay.
Let's start out with the Laudato Si action plan. That was created by University of Georgia professors, both Catholic and non-Catholic, that gave parishioners, parishes, and schools steps, both easy, medium, and difficult, to be sustainable in various actions and be better environmental stewards.
So the action plan actually sprang forth from this Pope that came out and said he was going to do something about the environment. I think it's really great that this action plan was so highly anticipated that scientists at the University of Georgia came together, Catholics and other faith traditions alike, and said, we now have the opportunity to combine our science work with faith. And that's what came from that action plan. Tell us a little bit more, Leonard, if you will, about how that happened.
Well, you know, Pope Francis, he did speak to Catholics, but he spoke to non-Catholics as well. And the action plan plus the subsequent revision has been received very, very well by other faiths. Ebenezer Baptists accepted the Laudato Si action plan, and they're Baptists. So it goes beyond the walls, the Catholic walls, to people of faith, or as Pope Francis said, people of goodwill. And that's who I think we wrote the action plan for. People that are going to do something.
So as our Holy Father and as he spoke to us as Catholics, he did write the encyclical to all people of goodwill. And I think the action plan here in Atlanta, we were able to follow his example of writing a letter to people of goodwill and all people of goodwill and present an action plan that worked for all people of goodwill. Mm-hmm. So as we look at that, I think that we hold him up as an example of how to follow. And the same thing happened then as we moved from creating this amazing action plan to, okay, now what?
You know, one of our team members, he'd always say, what if Pope Francis wrote you a letter? How would you respond? And so the Laudato Si action plan was basically a response to the Laudato Si encyclical.
And from that action plan that went far and wide, interestingly enough, the Pope himself received a copy of our action plan. It was delivered to him in person, placed in his hands. And then when we did the 5-year update of the action plan, we put it online. We made it searchable. Again, we hand-delivered a copy to him, and he accepted that. And what's really interesting is he acknowledged the fact that we were the first in all the world, after he published his encyclical, to put a plan of action in place. And so from that, we were able to really get his blessing on what we were doing. And I think that energized us here in Atlanta. And that led then to us deciding we're going to put a pilot program in place.
That's right. You know, inspired by the action plan, because it covers energy, it covers water, it even covers now with the revision environmental justice and equity. And I like the way it's set up because it's an action word in front of the topic, embracing environmental justice. So we're putting action to it. And yes, that led to the pilot plan, our pilot program that we did, what's that, 10 years ago?
Almost, yeah. We're coming up on the 10-year anniversary.
All right, tell us about the pilot. I wasn't around. I wasn't in the picture yet. So, Kat, tell us about the pilot
So the
program.
pilot plan was pretty cool. The Pope had said that he wanted people to not just read his encyclical, he wanted them to do something. So here in the Archdiocese, we said, what are we going to do? So we said, let's pick one parish or school in each of our different deaneries and engage them in an audit. We wanted to find out about their energy and their water specifically. And let's bring the economic impact of making some changes together with the environmental impact, which is what the Pope had asked us to do, to look at this broadly across all categories. So we put this in place, and what was great about this is that it helped us to begin to raise awareness with the different parishes and with the different priests about what the Pope was actually asking us to do. The pilot plan went into place. We began to get all this. So these are the people who started it. And from that, we started to see early adopters rise up and say, hey, our parish wants to do that too. So we went from a letter being rolled out to us embracing it and putting a plan in place to then going out to the parishes and saying, the Pope has asked us to do this. Do you want to get involved? And they said yes.
Yes.
And we began to see measurable changes start to take place.
That's right. If you can't measure it, you can't monitor it. So that's good because that actually puts numbers behind it. So it satisfies both the science and the faith-based, and the faithful, combining. So we're slowly but surely getting to that intersection of faith and sustainability. Thus, the Laudato Si initiative was created. Again, through Pope Francis's inspiration from Laudato Si, we decided, hey, let's take this to the road. We've got a roadmap, we've got instructions, but let's do outreach. Let's train people. Let's start teams. Let's get the word out. Let's make this into a ministry.
So the Pope was very specific when he introduced Laudato Si, and he told us about something called integral ecology. So we know integral ecology to pretty much mean everything is connected. And this was an opportunity now to connect our faith with environmental stewardship. So we put together a 10-year Laudato Si initiative, and our initiative went from 2020 and goes through 2030. And the whole idea with this initiative was to really explore the Pope's idea of everything being interconnected. So our initiative doesn't just look at the audits. Our initiative looks at how do we interact with community? How do we interact with other faiths? How do we interact with individuals and institutions? So the whole idea was to take a deeper dive into what the Pope had asked us to do.
Well, in Laudato Si, it says, living our vocation to be protected of God's handiwork is essential to a life of virtue. So that let me know that we're on the right track spiritually. Instead of getting people to wrap their brains around sustainability, we want them to wrap their hearts around it. And I think the initiative, that's when we arrived at that intersection of faith and sustainability, and we didn't have to separate the two. Would you agree?
I would. I think this is the point that the Pope had been pushing us to all along. He wrote this, he invited us in, but we had to take the step. We had to make the decision that this is something we were going to do. And we started to do that with our pilot program, but it wasn't until we got to the initiative that we embraced our call to actually take ownership of this and do this. And that's what the Pope was asking us to do. The other thing it allowed us to do here at the Archdiocese of Atlanta is we modeled what we were doing off what the Pope had asked us to do. Now we're offering a model for other faith traditions and other Catholic dioceses to see what we've been doing. So he sent us in that direction.
And you know what I find interesting is that the Laudato Si initiative, you ended up creating or being a part of it. It ended up in your department. Tell us a little bit how that happened.
So, isn't that interesting? Being the director of Justice and Peace Ministries for the Archdiocese of Atlanta, I'm often asked, how did you get creation care? Well, taking care of creation is very much a faith issue, but it's also a justice issue. On our podcast, we talk all the time about that intersection of places where our faith tells us we have to address the injustices that are out there. So it came under Justice and Peace Ministries because it is, in fact, a ministry, and it is one that calls us to consider caring for the earth as a justice issue. So there we are, and that's where it lives. I feel like in some ways the Pope sort of said, take this, put it where it works, meet people where they are, but meet a diocese where they are. And in our diocese, this was something I was passionate about. This is something that I had been working on before the letter was actually published to all people of goodwill. So it made sense for our diocese to put it there. But not all dioceses put it in the same place.
Right.
That it fit for us in this place. But it's the same way in the parishes. As the Pope had said to us, put this where it works. Make it work where it fits. We want to do that in the parishes as well. So in one parish, it resides in the Hispanic ministry. In another, it's its own vibrant creation care ministry. And in another parish, it sits in the Justice and Peace advocacy group.
And you know, the Laudato Si action plan was a great start for the Laudato Si initiative. You know, we say a lot of Laudato Si, but again, this is dedicated to Pope Francis and his encyclical. Now, you're one of the residuals, or a couple of residuals of the initiative, this podcast, Faith and Sustainability podcast, and the Faith and Sustainability newsletter. So it seems like the initiative has taken a life, I'd like to say on its own, but there's a lot of work behind it as well.
I think this was a pope who believed in advocacy. Mm-hmm. He didn't just believe in saying something and praying about it. Well, we were certainly encouraged to do all those things, and he was great at that sort of thing. But he was also an excellent model when it came to advocacy. He went out into the streets and lived Laudato Si, so he called us to do the same thing. And one of the things that we've done here in the Archdiocese is create an actual Laudato Si advocacy group. And they're looking at advocating on behalf of all of our created world, and specifically looking at our environmental advocacy work. Things like the Okefenokee Swamp, things like the coal ash pits, those things where people need to stand up. They need to have their voice heard when it comes to those issues. So just like the Pope, when he stood up and made sure the whole world knew what he wanted, what he was talking about, what he said our faith calls us to do, we heard that and we embraced it here and started that same thing.
And I think everybody who's been involved with the Laudato Si initiative, we've got a great team. Kat has a great team of A-type personalities, all inspired by the Pope to bring us together. We had contributors to the Laudato Si initiative, that was giving their time, talent, and treasure so we can go forward. And again, that's inspiration because we didn't really have a budget. We didn't know what this was going to look like, but our faith kept pushing us forward. And I think, we need to stop every once in a while and smell the roses. And again, and continue to celebrate Pope Francis. He's, like you said, we mourn his passing, but we're celebrating his inspiration and his impact on the Archdiocese of Atlanta and hopefully beyond.
His vision was huge, bigger than big. So when we look at his vision for what this world could be, and if we raised our faith voices to care for creation, to remember that it's not just about now, but it's about future generations as well, his vision is astronomical, if you will. I think one of the really interesting things is go all the way back to the beginning when he was known as the People's Pope. not just the Catholic Pope, but the People's Pope. And we saw that as we went out into the community and we brought our cardboard cutout of the Pope with us. Every place we went, people wanted their picture taken with the Pope. They would ask us, "Are you bringing the Pope with you when you're going to do a presentation or come to a green summit or something like that?" So interestingly, he isn't just inspiring us. I think he's really inspiring everybody that we came in contact with as we've been doing this work.
And that's why we share the action plan. It's online. We share the Laudato Si initiative. It's not like a hush-hush. We're not doing this in a vacuum. We're inviting everybody, different faiths, different perspectives in life, different race, gender, and everything. We're trying to cross all those boundaries, or cross-section all those boundaries. Again, being at that intersection of faith and sustainability. And then one of the things, or a couple of things that from the Laudato Si initiative, we started cohorts doing more energy audits, and we did workshops. We've had 3 very successful workshops where we brought people. I mean, people came in from all over the state, parishes all over the state, to come in and share information. And what we did, what I liked the way we worked it, is we got them to speak. We said, "What are your thoughts? We heard you, and this is what we're doing. Help us. This is your program from the ground up." So the workshops and the energy audits, I know they were going on a little bit before I came on board. So Kat, talk to that. And what did we get out of the energy audits?
So I think what the energy audits helped us do was bring together the faith-based reason for doing the energy audits. Mm-hmm. And what came out of that was exactly what the Pope said. If we could make change, mm-hmm. what then would we do? Well, as we were able to make changes in terms of spending less money on HVAC and, mm-hmm. and turning out the lights and turning off the water, those sort of things. What did that mean? Well, it meant that at least some of that savings could be reinvested into social issues around poverty and hunger and things like that, which we all know the Pope was about living this life. I will tell you that I personally look to the Pope as somebody, a model, that I wanted to live more like him. This was a man who chose to live in Spartan conditions compared to what others might have lived in. This was a man who chose to pay his own hotel bill, mm-hmm. to ask somebody to pray for him because he realized that he wasn't the be-all and end-all. It wasn't about him. Mm-hmm. It was about our faith and our God. And so I look to him as this idea of more is less, this idea of living a less materialistic life. He has really encouraged me to do that. I think in the same way, our Laudato Si work is this message of putting aside the material things in life and embracing the natural side of things. Because let's face it, he made it quite clear we have one planet.
That's right.
And we have one common home.
There's no planet B.
Yep. We are all responsible for taking care of that. Leonard, tell us a little bit about how, as an archdiocese, we have worked on some relationship in the community.
Well, we've gone out to the community, working with cities, counties, governments, as well as nonprofit organizations, but also we're in this together with the Cobb County. We're in this together with the state of Georgia. So we're bringing them in. This podcast, look at the diverse characters we've had on the podcast. We've had the National Football League here. We had Dr. Amanda Ball. We've had the University of Notre Dame. So we've had diverse thoughts and everything to put together. And if we carefully take notes, and if we carefully put it all together, again, we can take that and send the message out to the world. In Laudato Si, Pope Francis says, our efforts at education will be inadequate and ineffectual unless we strive to promote a new way of thinking about human beings, life, society, and our relationship with nature. So that's in line people say, what does an audit have to do with this? Well, as you said, conserving money, conserving energy. The Pope has openly said, look into renewable energy. No, he didn't say. He said more than look. Renewable energy. So that quote, because what we're trying to do with the initiative is be in line with the Laudato Si and and say, okay, we're going to do this. How does this fit into Laudato Si? What paragraph does this go? What biblical section? So I think this becomes more than a program initiative. This truly becomes a ministry.
So that brings up the fact that the Pope also wasn't satisfied. After putting out this encyclical and really telling everybody to take a look at this and start to look at how you can live this, he still wasn't satisfied. So he did put out Laudate Deum, and that was a call to action. That was like, we've not done enough. What are we going to do? And I think that also kind of jump-started us here in the Archdiocese of Atlanta to say it's not enough to just talk about it. What are we going to do? What are the measurable results? And because of that, we started to ask questions about how are we investing our money here in the Archdiocese. We've asked Christian Brothers, who handles about 50% of all of our investments, to talk about what it means to invest from a perspective of caring for our common home. And what does that mean? But I think it's even more than that. We've asked ourselves, first of all, big thank you to our Archbishop, who heard the Pope's request to make Laudato Si more than just something that a particular department in your diocese does. He said, let's implement this. Let's make it a part of everything we do. So our Archbishop Hartmeyer, said, great. So he actually took a part of the Archbishop's annual appeal and said, we're going to help fund this work. So it isn't just talking the talk. We're going to walk the walk. We're going to do something. So a big shout out to our Archbishop, who heard the Pope's call to begin to integrate this. And we all heard Laudato Deum say, do something and do it now.
That was the marching orders. That was the exclamation point on Laudato Si. Again, so much good stuff to talk about, so much inspiration by Pope Francis, and so little time. But one thing I do want to bring up is the Care for Creation teams. We had teams that had started even before we started the initiative, and we had teams that have started since then. But, getting people engaged, because just like Pope Francis, we weren't satisfied. We said, we've got to go further and deeper. We've got to reach out. The goal is to reach out to every parish, through the Care for Creation teams. And we work for them. They don't work for us. We work for them. But it's important that they're a big part of it. It's important that they have skin in the game, to put a term. So we have our Care for Creation committees and teams and everything. And that's starting to grow. They're the ones that have attended our workshops, And so next, okay.
It's also interesting when we talk about ministry and all that, that the Pope put into play this building up of ministries. So at the Vatican level, there was the Laudato Si Action Platform. And he made sure that there were people invited from every part of the world to be a part of that. So, for instance, I was honored to accept being one of those who represented the U.S. Catholic Diocese at the Vatican level in terms of what are we doing in bringing our work to the global table. But we also have the Laudato Si movement. We have each individual country doing Laudato Si work. So here in the U.S., our U.S. bishops and we have the Catholic Church coming together under the umbrella of the U.S. Catholic Church, the Australian Catholic Church, the Vietnamese Catholic Church. We have all of these different places coming together, and we occasionally bring those groups together to learn from one another and to share our experiences. So the same way the Pope put into play ministry and making sure that individuals took ownership, that is exactly what we're doing with our creation care teams, giving them the opportunity to take it, to own it, to live it, and we're here to support them.
Exactly. And as we wrap up, I'd like to acknowledge, we were inspired by Pope Francis. We were supported by Archbishop Hartmeyer. We have Bishop Kanzen as our chaplain. Kat, your department that you so willingly took on this challenge. And then Susan Valamoff, not only is she a volunteer, but she's a contributor to the Laudato Si initiative. We have Brian Savoy. He brings in that expertise of the energy audits and the expertise of putting the numbers together to make sure that, that our numbers are with our partners are just as realistic as our faith is with us. Then we have Jay Bassett. He's a community guy. He's out in the community, and he definitely believes in ground truthing and working with the communities and everything. So you've got an interesting bunch here of the people, plus all the other people have donated time, treasure, and talent to this initiative. And again, this is all inspired. Here's a question I have for you, Kat. What was your first reflection when you first heard about Laudato Si?
I knew it was coming, and we had our Social Action Summer Institute was going to revolve around this groundbreaking encyclical that the Pope was putting out. So there was this anticipation, this heavy waiting to hear what it would say. And the interesting thing was the day that it was published, I literally, within hours of its publication, had people on the phone saying to me, so what's the Archdiocese going to do? How are we going to do this? I'm like, y'all have to give me just a minute to read through it, to absorb it, to kind of get an idea of what it is. But one of the coolest things was at the time we had then Archbishop Gregory, now Cardinal Gregory, who really encouraged me to take the time to dig into it and understand what the Pope was asking, and then to bring that to life. So from the very beginning, from Cardinal Gregory through Archbishop Hartmeyer, through the work that we've done with the different pastors in the parishes, we are bringing the Pope's vision to life.
Yes.
That's really what this whole Laudato Si journey has been about.
I want to thank our listeners for joining us on this special celebration of Pope Francis and Laudato Si. We pray for Pope Francis, and we renew our commitment to sustainability and embracing his call for creation.
Just because he's no longer with us, his vision remains. Not only does it remain, but it is active. It is growing. We are not going to sit back and rest. At this point, we're going to take this legacy that he's left us and grow it into everything that he envisioned that it might someday be.
Well, I'm ready. Are you ready, Kat?
I'm ready. Let's do it, Leonard. So don't forget to like and subscribe to our podcast. We would love to have you join us on upcoming episodes of Faith and Sustainability. Leonard, we'll look forward to meeting everybody next time
at the intersection of faith and sustainability.
The preceding podcast is a production of the Roman Catholic Archdiocese of Atlanta. Copyright 2025.